Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we are going to be covering the final of the 12 seasonal color analysis palettes, and that is going to be Deep or Dark Autumn. Stay tuned and let's get right into this video. What is seasonal color analysis? Seasonal color analysis is where we look at a person's skin tone, hair color, eye color, as well as the level of contrast between their features. And that will put people into one of 12 different seasonal color palettes, which go from winter to spring, summer, autumn, and each of those 4 seasons is then subdivided into 3 seasons. The sub-season we are looking at today is of the autumn palette, and we are looking at Deep Dark Autumn, which is the final autumn palette as well as the final palette on the seasonal flowchart. Deep Dark Autumn is classified by its deep dark overtone of the palette. It is a neutral warm palette as it sits between the very warm toned warm true autumn season and the neutral cool season Deep Dark Winter. Deep Dark Autumn is focused primarily on darker neutrals with a splash of cooler tones and warmer tones. So think about your sapphires, emeralds, and rubies, as well as your rusty terracottas as being a great color to start with when you're building a look, whether it's your clothing or your makeup. Hair colors that we see a lot are going to be your medium to dark golden or warm brown auburns and warmer black brown shades. Eye colors, much like hair color, are going to be warm and slightly darker, ranging from dark olivey greens to browns to hazels to amber. Examples of deep dark autumn celebrities are going to be people like Cindy Crawford, Eva Longoria, Gabrielle Union, Jenny from Blackpink, Rashida Jones, and Sigourney Weaver. So now that we know a little bit more about what is seasonal color analysis as well as what is a deep dark autumn color palette, let's get into creating this everyday deep dark autumn makeup look. Alrighty, to get started with our dark or deep autumn makeup, I'm going to start with eyeliner. With this color palette's main feature being its dark or deep quality, along with undertones which are warmer, I'm going to start off with a dark brown. Depending on your coloring, you could go with a black eyeliner, especially in the way that which you're going to use it. I'm going to use a dark brown. To smudge out the eyeliner, I want to use a neutral to cool undertoned cream eyeshadow, and for that one I'm going to be using one from Tom Ford. This is the cream color for eyes in the shade 01 Platinum. Using a small brush, I'm going to take a little bit of the cream eyeshadow. Using a handheld mirror, I want to look down, angle my brush down, and I'm going to start buffing right over the pencil eyeliner. And then once you have less product on your brush, we're going to wiggle it towards the socket line. Now you can either keep the shape rounded or you can do what I'm going to do and slightly elongate and sharpen the outer corner. And then I like to look a little bit further away in a larger mirror and further perfect my shape. Whatever's left of my brush, I'm going to carry under my lower lash line. The shape doesn't need to be perfect at this point. We are going to work on top of it and blend a little bit more. You can leave this here. I want to add a little bit of a shimmer. Hourglass. This is the Scouter Lights Glitter Eyeshadow in the shade Reflect, and tap this right over the center of my eye. Compared to the eye pencil and the cream eyeshadow pullover, this is going to be a little bit warmer. With the dark deep autumn color palette being a neutral to neutral warm palette, I can play with some cooler undertones, especially since the neighboring palette is deep dark winter, so I can throw in some of those cooler wintry nuances. I find, especially for deep autumn and deep winter, playing with colors with an opposite undertone really creates more of a striking visual effect. I want to add some shape and smoke to my socket line. Elf Mad for Matte's eyeshadow palette in Nude Mood, and I'm going to use this light pinky brown. Even though we've already done some softening to the socket line, I want to take this matte shade and warm up the socket. If you're someone with a truly warm undertone, adding this warmer shade will have more impact than it does on me. I am not an autumn. The color palette that suits my skin tone is light summer, so having a slightly cooler socket line is going to sit easier with my skin. But to keep this true to warm autumn, I want to show you how to really enhance this. If you keep this cooler undertone socket for a deep dark autumn, it's going to look a little bit more dramatic, and it's to take the attention away from here because this cool undertone is going to really stand out from the rest of the skin. So I want to soften that down because I want this glittery shade to be the star of the show. I'm continuing with that warmer color under my eye to add a little bit of a haze. And lastly, I'm going to take the light cream color. This is going to be a little bit more of an off-white, slightly yellow beige undertone. And I'm just going to use a fluffy brush. And I'm going to use that under the arch of the brow. Since this is warmer, it's going to create a matte highlight effect. Once again, I want to keep the attention on the shimmer on the center of the eye. So using a lighter skin tone shade that is matte will help to clean up, soften any edges, blend them closer, blending them into our skin tone. Add a little bit of a highlight, but it will not take away from the star of the show, which is the center of the eyelid. And you can also use this to soften up your edges. I'm going to leave the eyes here a little bit softer right now. I want the star of the show to be the lips. So I'm going to go ahead and do lips. Revlon Super Lustrous Lipstick. And this is the cream formula in number 130 Rose Velvet. Now I'm going to take a small flat brush and use this brush to really work the color into the lips, making it into more of a stain. Lisa Eldridge Enhance and Define Lip Pencil in the shade Muse. And you can just line your lip as you like. Lisa Eldridge Gloss Embrace, also in the shade Muse. Now that we have a darker glossy lip, we are in the right direction. I feel like I will add a little bit more to the eyes, but I want to get the blush and the cheek color on first before I play up the eyes, because I don't want too much competition between here and here. Because even though deep dark autumn is neighboring on the winter season, it is part of the autumn family, and compared to the other seasons, autumn color palette are a little bit more muted. So I can get a little bit higher contrast than a soft autumn would. I can't go too crazy. So I'm just gonna punch it up a little bit so this way the look isn't too soft, but it's also not too dramatic and too contrasty. 3CE Take a Layer Cream Blush in the shade Cabbage Rose. These are quite pigmented, so you need a teeny tiny bit, and it's a cooler rose. I'm gonna start with a teeny tiny amount, and I'm gonna use my finger to start applying it to cheeks. Now, normally you would apply a little bit more than I am right now, but when I did my foundation and concealer, I did powder. Creams can sometimes work over powders, but I generally like to keep them separate because sometimes they can break apart a powdery base, and that's when things will start looking a little splotchy. It's gonna look a little bit more intense because this is the first thing I'm applying. This is going to be a backdrop. I'm going to take my foundation brush. It's been sitting for a little bit, so it will have residual that is dried down. I'm gonna use this just to softly brush over. So here the color is on one side, and with this being my base layer, this is going to serve as the backdrop. So when I'm looking for a color for a backdrop blush, I want to choose a color that is going to sit between whatever color is on the lips and whatever color is on the eye. It doesn't matter if your lip is going to be the feature of the look or the eye is going to be the feature. Find a color that is going to harmonize and blend the bridge between the two different colors, because normally either eyes or the lips are the feature. Chic is going to be a mid-tone color point that is going to harmonize and pull the two colors together. Now that I have my base blush on, we can also notice this cheek color is a little bit cooler than the eye or the lip, and that's on purpose. Once again, with this being a neutral, warm color palette, I want to make sure I am not making things overly orangey warm. So adding a little bit of a cool base will just help to neutralize whatever warmer tones I put on top. The Milani Silky Matte Bronzer in the shade number 1 sunlight. It doesn't matter how you apply your bronzer. I'm just going to use it to mimic a bronzer effect. It's not going to be as high as I was applying it as a bronzer. It's not going to be as low as a contour, right in between. And I like to scoop up and wrap the color under the eye and into the bridge of the nose. And that way it's just gonna give you a little bit more of that autumnal flush that would be the reminiscence of a summer tan. Definitely not a must, it's just something I like to do to keep it feeling a little bit more fun and lively. Now, since I want to play up a little bit more contrast, I wanna keep the contrast on the cheeks closer to the eye. I'm gonna use a little bit of a highlighter. This is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Soft and Gentle. I'm gonna apply this right under the eye at the highest point of the cheek. Take a moment, buff this highlight in circular motions, and then spread out. From straight ahead, you're not gonna notice too much glitter and shimmer, but when we turn, you're gonna pick up on the glitter, and it becomes even more noticeable when the light catches the shimmer on the eyelid. It will tie that in as a compliment. Find the highest point of the cheek right under the eye, hug and press and buff in, pressing the brush in enough just so the bristles splay teeny tiny bits. So just like that, tiny bit of pressure, and with a light hand buff in. You're not gonna press down to where the bristles go like this, you're just barely pressing. So if you notice, there is resting right on the skin, applying a tiny bit of pressure. We're applying a tiny bit of pressure and then carefully blending and pulling the color out. Next, I'm gonna take a Para Pure Blushed Sunshine Cheek Blush in the shade 05 Dusky Rose. And I wanna apply this blush a little bit higher on the cheek, overlapping the highlighter. Go back to your brush that you used to powder your face with, and then slowly buff and diffuse. We have to remember, autumn is still a softer, lower contrast palette. Don't want to create a bunch of harsh lines using bright contrasting colors. We still want to have fun. We need to make our colors a little bit more deeper, a little bit more richer, but we don't want them overdone. So once I get my blush on, I'm gonna buff over it just a little bit and then look at my level. Is this color bridging properly between my lip and my eye? This side, yes. I feel like I need to add a little bit more to this side. A little bit on the chin, and then I'm gonna buff over the chin and buff over this. There we go. I feel like that is nicely harmonized. Now I'm gonna apply mascara. Ideally for this color palette, you would use a black-brown mascara, but depending on the level of contrast, I would say go with a black-brown if you are more of a medium warm brown or an auburn, or if you have a darker brown to a warm black brown hair color, then look into some blacks. I'm gonna use a brown. This is just the Dior Show mascara in brown. And for mascara, you can go as light or as heavy as you would like. Now that I have mascara, lips, and cheeks on, the lower lash line feels a little bare. I'm gonna go back to my eye pencil. I wanna add a little something to my lower lash line, but I don't wanna go too crazy. So I'm just gonna take my pencil, add a little tiny bit right here to the outer corner, and then I'm gonna take a teeny tiny bit of the cream eyeshadow I used. So already I feel like this is just helping tie things in a little bit better. However, I feel like if I keep this lower lash line with the cream unset, it's gonna crease up. So I'm gonna go back to my e.l.f. Matte for Matte palette, and I'm gonna go to the slightly warmer brown, remember. And this is next to the shade that I used in my socket line up top. I'm just gonna go to the shade next to it. And I'm gonna take just a tiny bit on the point of my blending brush, and I'm gonna go right over top of the cream eyeshadow. Now I'm gonna use the color that I used in my upper crease line, and I'm gonna use this color to soften out and connect to my upper lash line. And then I'm gonna use the shade that I used to highlight my upper brow bone to go through and soften the blend. Much better. Completely optional. You could leave it like this if you wanted to, or dial it up a little bit more if you wanted to. I'm just gonna do the other side real quick off camera. I wanna play with this look a little bit more, so I'm gonna go back to the Hourglass cream color, and I'm gonna take just a tiny, tiny bit right under the center of my lower lash line, So this is gonna stay right under the iris, and that will help just to tie in the upper and the lower together. Now I wanna add just a bit more fun, so I'm gonna take a classic drugstore product, CoverGirl Cheekers Blush in the shade number 120 Soft Sable. Alrighty, so this is going to be the final deep, dark autumn makeup. We've played with some warmer tones, we've played with some cooler tones to create this overall neutral, warm look to the skin. We have a soft, smoky eye on the eyes that can be taken from day to night. We have a little bit more of a statement lip on for my skin tone. However, if you have a deeper skin tone than I do, this would be more of a kind of everyday mid-tone color. And then we have a mid-tone blush just to tie everything together. All products used, tools used will be linked in the description box down below and on my website in the accommodating blog post. This is the end of the initial seasonal color analysis series. Next, I'm gonna be doing another video for all 12 color seasons, going through the look opposite to what we did in this first video. So where this video I did something a little bit more everyday, a little bit more wearable, in the next dark autumn video I will share a look that is a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more party ready. So expect that in fall. I will see you all later. Bye y'all.